Heading south from Menindee via some completely missing road that's being rebuilt after flooding, we reach Kulkyne. At the park, there's a camping area by the river that we check out. Some of it's unavailable due to high river levels, but it certainly looks like a contender if we're ever back here. Where sometimes your cartography just lets slip your opinions about the region. We pass through the town of Buronga, located just north of Mildura, and cross back into Victoria. We then turn towards Red Cliffs, and this should start looking a little familiar. Had to, of course, stop and take another look at Big Lizzie. The second trailer's still sadly not restored, but I grab a couple of angles that I didn't get last time. And if you're wondering about this thing, I previously made a video on why it exists, what it was used for, and whether it was really any use. The link's down in the description. So from there we head on to somewhere else that also looked familiar, and yet still we took a wrong turn. The campsite was pretty much empty, yet there was already someone in the campsite that we wanted last time. But the campsite that we had last time was empty. Same spot as last time. Hey, you were parked there. With the 18-200 lens fitted, I then decided to take a closer look at some birds. In the morning, we empty the last 40 litres of Kawartji diesel into the fuel tank. We've been saving it since then in case we got caught short, but I'm certainly not going to be keeping it in the apartment, so into the tank it goes. And then we began the not so long journey home. There it is, that bridge. Back in the big smoke with a whole bunch of traffic. And we return home with both of the people we set out with and a still working vehicle. I'd call that a success. So let's recap. In this series so far we've had number 1, right here in Melbourne, went over our preparations and planning with detail on exactly what you need to attempt an expedition like this. Number 2 details the 3,500 kilometre journey to get to the Canning, through Victoria, across South Australia, up through Kalgoorlie to Wiluna, finishing at North Pool. Number 3, we then turn down the unassuming gap between two trees to begin the Canning stock route itself, reaching the amazing Millionary Pierre Springs located at Well 6. Number 4, we head on from Millionary through Palatji, past Lake Aerodrome, Murray Rankin's Trolley, Canning's Cairn, and arrive at Durba Springs. Number 5, the difficult Deeble Hills, the Wangunya Rock Hole, Lake Disappointment, Savoury Creek Crossing, and then Georgia Bore. Number 6, Tiwa, the argument between Snell and Canning over well placement, Kawartji the well, and then Kawartji the community. Number 7, the well that may or may not be haunted, get stuck for the first time, a rather different well, we cross a lake, a dune in a lake, and then try to get to Helena Springs and Gravity Lakes. Number 8, the Honeycomb Bluff, Godfrey Tank, Well 51, then a detour into Paruku IPA, visit the Wolf Creek Crater and Halls Creek, the wrong Halls Creek. Number 9, Bungle Bungles. Number 10, the long drive to Alice Springs via Kalu Kalu, the Devil's Marbles. Number 11, snakes, crocodiles, and not so much HF radio around Alice Springs. Number 12, Kings Canyon and the Red Centre Way. Number 13, Uluru and the Resort. Number 14, Coopapedy and a wind turbine. Number 15, across Outback SA, down the Udnadatta track, Cameron Corner to Tibooburra. Number 16, travelling south from there to Broken Hill, and a lot about Burke and Wills. Number 17, this video where we end up back home. Now that map's all very good, but I want a physical one. I bought this one from HEMA, 1.66 by 1.45 meters in size. Now to get the big Sharpies out and mark it up. After drawing the other trips we've taken on it, it now goes up on the wall. And since you all like numbers, here's some. Days spent, 34 total, with 16 of them on the CSR. Kilometres travelled, 12,444 kilometres on the GPS tracks. States and territories covered, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, Northern Territory, Queensland and New South Wales, 6 of 9, no ACT, Tasmania or Jervis Bay. Fuel used, 1,780 litres or thereabouts. I'm not totally sure, I didn't keep receipts, and for some of the fuels I had to guess how many litres from the dollar amount out of the bank statement. We were worried about the section from Wiluna to Kanawaragi, not really about any of the rest. Total cost of that was about $4,000 worth. So that would give us an average litres per 100 of about 14.3 litres per 100k. Total size of media captured, 3,348,981 megabytes, or about 3.35 terabytes, across 10 cameras, making up 75 hours, 35 minutes, 38 seconds. Which gives us gigabytes of media per 100 kilometers, about 26.9 gigabytes per 100 kilometers average, or, a little more usefully, about 98.4 gig a day. That's about 2.2 hours of footage per day. A lot of that was just left rolling while driving, looking for the perfect moment. Hours of finished video, including this one, 4 hours and 19 minutes, giving us an edit ratio of about 5.7%, or 17.5 to 1. I had a 2TB SSD and a 1TB SSD, both being copied to their own 2TB spinning Rust hard drive as a backup. Both were completely filled and the last bit was partially on my laptop and still on the camera cards when we got home. So, total mechanical carnage. Antenna bracket, mirror backs destroyed, clips on the mirror glass wrecked, sidewall cut in the tyre, ISDT charger, cracked number plate holder, a CV boot with a stick through it, a cracked windscreen, a cracked number plate, radio cabling on the Kodan, and an HG UV98 with no 2 meters. Next up, let's take a look at that CV joint. I've had the spare we were carrying fitted into the vehicle, and my plan is to rebuild this one and keep it as the spare. I've cut it open to take a look at the internals. It was actually just a small hole before, but I need to order a new boot before we can fix this. So this HG UV98 radio just decided to stop transmitting anything more than milliwatts on 2 meters. Not much good for an APRS device. Strangely enough, the 70cm side continued working perfectly fine. A little poking around found that it was one of the transistors in the power amp chain. Surprisingly, it has a separate one for both bands. Replacements were purchased and soldered in, and the whole thing looked perfect on the spectrum analyzer on both bands. The radio was reassembled, but sadly it then stopped working again shortly after that, and after a lot of poking around, we could never figure out why. So in the end I just bought another one. Oh well. So 2 problems we had with the cables. The first one was the cables coming loose when the stuff that's in the back runs into the side of the radio, and that's been corrected by this little tread plate box that now covers the back of the radio unit, preventing them from being bumped. The second problem was that the tangle of cables in there was unreliable and getting unplugged, so the Pi and all of that stuff has been moved to this wooden enclosure up here to hold it all in place, and the digi-rig itself has been moved inside the Kodan, hardwired, soldered in place with just the USB cable coming out. So those 2 changes have made it a fair bit more reliable. Now in Durba Springs, I said this. Had some thoughts as to whether 100 amp hours is quite enough, but on the other hand we don't tend to do this kind of trip every day, so maybe at some point in the future. But you know, I've since become convinced that 100 amp hours wasn't quite enough. One of the lead acids at the front has been removed, replaced with another 110 amp hours of lithium, for a total of 210 amp hours. And a new splitter is in place. It's MOSFET ideal diode based rather than actual diodes, for less voltage drop and more charging efficiency. Alright, they're all sleeved up now. Much neater. A new number plate holder has then been purchased, and a new antenna mount has been fabricated out of galvanized steel. Next up, now that the windscreen's replaced, the mirror covers. These are mostly just cosmetic, but currently they're held on with duct tape due to broken clips. Not expensive to replace though, so we may as well. And after that, it's time to get the roof rack, expedition gear, and a whole bunch of other stuff out of our apartment. We now have a storage locker. The cupboard under the stairs is gone. But this gives me an idea. There's a bit of light in here. Could we put a solar panel in here and power things? Surely we'd be able to make at least a couple of watts. Stick something in here to report when someone opens the door. Yeah, it is a pretty cloudy day, but that's not very encouraging. Yeah, that's not even lighting that up. That's not a great sign. Yeah, it's fairly light in here, just not fairly light in there. Okay, plan B, a reprogrammed radio sonde. Well, we got a pile of them, and when you want an STM32 with a radio attached, set up to run off a pair of AA batteries already, well, what else do you use? Theoretically, it's close enough to our apartment, and since it's on the top floor of the storage place, we should be able to hear this from home. It's practically line of sight, and we kinda can. So, version 2 of the design goes in. A reed switch connects the batteries to it when the door's opened, and it sends out APRS packets on 70 centimeters. The packets are then received by a slightly improved setup at home and go to the email gateway, sending an email when the door's open so we know if any intrusion has occurred. And then, it's just a case of shooting some video about how we did this whole thing. Now you could say it's been the trip of a lifetime, but is that just too cliche? It was an amazing journey through a part of Australia that a lot of people just don't get to see, with some definite ticking off the bucket list stuff on the way back. But I'm certainly hoping I live long enough to do something else just as amazing, and there'll probably be a video on that too. The preparation before the trip was no easy task, but the effort spent here made the trip so much easier. Now editing the video after the trip though, that's been a lot of work as well. So to all of you who have followed our adventure, everyone who has kept in contact with us via HF Radio, everyone who has told me how much they've enjoyed watching this, and everyone else out there who's even just subscribed and watched the videos, thank you so much to all of you, and I'm really glad you're enjoying it. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. Just click the button down there and you'll follow us on many adventures to come. So up next on the channel, I've fast-tracked the editing of Antennapalooza 23. That comes next, then after that there's an off-road adventure on 4 wheels, because it involves 2 bikes. After that, back in the car for another 4-wheel drive trip, to somewhere surprisingly close that we haven't really seen a lot of. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time.